Welcome students. So we are discussing the incremental analysis, and in the previous class we were working out the change in the inventory policy from current to A, and as a result of change in the inventory policy by the company, how much investment is required to be made in the finished goods inventory level and in the net working capital. And we found out that the total investment change, delta investment from current to A, will be 169 lakhs, right. So it means additional investment of the 169 lakhs has to be made by the company if they want to move from the policy current to A, but the net effect of that will be that the company's sales will increase by 222 lakhs. So this is the major advantage, major benefit, and then we will have to work out the profits out of those sales. So we will do that in the next part, but currently let us work out the requirement of investment at the other policy levels. So now let us move from the policy A to B. So it means policy A to B here. When you move from the policy A to B, how much incremental investment in inventory we are going to make here? 160 lakhs, because in the previous part we have seen the investment in the inventory will be how much? That is from 610 to 770. So it means the 160 will be the increased investment in the inventory, and as a result of that, how much is going to be the change in the working capital or in the cost of working capital? That will be increased investment in the working capital will be 44 lakhs, and finally the total investment will be 204, not 169 as in case of the first policy. So there will be a change. So 104. So total cumulative investment will be 373. So it means this is the cumulative investment, and we are moving in the sequential form from the current to A and then from A to B, not directly from current to B, right. So we have to move in the that we are loosening it slowly and steadily. So we are moving from current to A to B, and let us see now situation from the B to C. When you move from B to C, so what will happen? The increased investment in the inventory will be how much? 243 lakhs, and in the working capital you are going to increase 36 lakhs, and total investment will be going up by 279, and cumulative investment will be becoming 652. B to C. Then we talk about C to D, right. When you move from C to D, then it will be 263, this is 263, then you will be increasing investment in the net working capital by 22 lakhs, total change in the investment will be 285, and finally the change in the investment will be 937, and then it is D to E, right, it is D to E. So it means what will happen now? Increased investment in inventory is 130 lakhs, then it is 9 lakhs, and total change in the investment will be 139, and it is 1076, right. So this is going to be the picture of the cumulative investment we are going to have here. So it means when you move from current to A, change in the investment, total investment, that is the investment in inventory plus investment in the net working capital will be 169. When you move from A to B, it will be 373, from B to C it will be 652, C to D it will be 937, and from D to E it will be 1076. So this is the total level of the cumulative investment we are going to make here. Now the next part what we have to do is we will have to work out the incremental operating profit. We will have to work out the incremental operating profit. So same way we will have to work out the incremental operating profit, incremental operating profit, incremental operating profit we will have to work out, and which we call it as delta OP, change in the operating profit. As in the previous case we have seen the delta investment, now it is the delta OP in the operating change in the operating profit. And for calculating this, again we will have to make the columns. First is the change in, first we will have to make the first column which will say that is a change in inventory policy, right. Then as a result of the change in inventory policy, incremental sales, how much incremental sales we are going to have, right, how much incremental sales are going to have, and then we are going to have incremental contribution, incremental contribution, which I was talking to you as a gross profit. You can call it as a contribution also, incremental contribution, that will be called as delta sales, change in sales. So, you can say it is a delta sales, it is called as a delta say change in the not this delta, but it will be the change in the contribution. We will have to see change in the gross profit or change in the contribution. You can say increase in the contribution or the say incremental contribution we will have to work out, and that will be at the rate of 40%. That we will have to work out at the rate of 40%. So, 40% is the gross profit, also we call it as a gross profit or contribution. This is 40%, and then we will have to see that next thing is incremental carrying cost. Incremental carrying cost will be how much? We will have to see that change in the incremental carrying cost. So, incremental carrying cost will be going up. So, you can call it as change in cost, delta cost. Then will be the incremental operating profit. Incremental operating profit before tax. We will have to see incremental operating profit before tax, you can say it is a delta operating profit, OPBT, operating profit before tax, and then it is the incremental operating profit before tax, incremental operating profit, incremental operating profit after tax, OPAT, incremental operating profit after tax. So, that will be the change in say change in OPBT and change in the OPAT, right. These are the columns. So, change in the inventory policy, change in the incremental sales because of that, so it is delta sales, incremental contribution at the rate of 40%, you can say at the rate of 40%, incremental carrying cost is carrying cost will also increase because now the sales are going to increase, inventory is going to increase, so carrying cost will also increase, and then incremental operating profit before tax and incremental operating profit after tax. So, here we will have now to make all the calculations. This is called as at the rate of 40%. So, now we will make the all calculations here. So, change in inventory policy from current to A, change in the inventory policy from current to A. So, how much is there is going to be change in the sales? See, here is going to be a change in the sales, 772 we are losing the sales currently. If we say loosen the inventory, it means increase the level of inventory of the finished goods, our say loss of the sales will come down from the 772 to 550, and then further it will also go down. So, it means incremental sales will be how much? 772 minus 550. So, in this case how much is going to be the change in sales? Change in the sales will be 222 lakhs. I am writing here rupees lakhs, this is 222. Then is A to B, move from the A to B, we will see here what happens, but here incremental contribution is going to be how much? Incremental contribution is going to be say it is 40%. So, it means the 40% of the sales is going to be contribution. So, it is going to be how much? It is going to be 89%. You can calculate, it is the incremental contribution at the rate of 40%. So, it will be 89% of the increased sales. And how much is incremental carrying cost? Carrying cost is given here. So, it is 27 when we are having the current inventory policy and we are losing the sales of 772 lakhs. So, the carrying cost is lowest 27 lakhs, but when you move from the policy current to A, your sales will increase, investment in inventory will increase, net working capital will increase. So, certainly your carrying cost will also increase, and the increase in the carrying cost will be by how much amount? 7. So, it means what will happen finally? So, this is the incremental contribution 89, sorry, this is not the percent, 89 when you say here, this is in the absolute terms 89 lakhs, not percentage terms, but in the absolute terms. So, it means it is 89 lakhs. So, 220 at the rate of 40%, 220 rupees sales are going to go up at the rate of 40% contribution, 89 lakhs of the contribution is going to be further added up, and carrying cost is there is going to increase by 7. So, finally, you can say that operating profit before tax is 82, and after taxes, because tax rate is how much, 50%. So it means after tax operating profit will be 41 lakhs, it is rupees in lakhs. Now you move from A to B. When you move from A to B, in that case what will happen, we will have the incremental sales of 200 lakhs, incremental contribution will be 80 lakhs, and then it will be change in the carrying cost. So if you change, see the carrying cost was 34, but now it is going to be 42, so it is going to increase by 8. So this is 8, and then it is going to be how much, 72. Operating profit before tax is 72, and then it is 36 operating profit after tax. After that we go from B to C. From B to C, if you go from B to C, so change in the sales is going to be 160, then incremental contribution is going to be 64, then it is going to be 14, and then it is going to be 50, and it is going to be 25 lakh rupees. Then you go from C to D. When you go from C to D, so change in the sales will be 100, and incremental contribution will be naturally 40, and then it is going to be 14%, incremental carrying cost is 14%, this is 26, and this is 13, operating profit after tax is 13, and then from D to E it is 40, change in the sales is going to be 40, then it is going to be 16, 40% of the 40, 16, then carrying cost is going to go up by 7, and then it is going to be how much, this will be carrying cost is 7, so it means the net change will be how much, D to E will be 9, yes it is 9, and then it will be 4.5 or half of that, or maybe we call it as 5, we have taken rounded it off, so it is 5 or 4.5, something like that, or say this is going to be a change in operating profit, going to be carrying cost is this. So your change in sales is 40, carrying cost is increasing, incremental contribution is 16, and carrying cost is going to be 7. So your incremental profit after tax is 9, incremental operating profit before tax is 9, and after tax you can say it is 4.5 lakhs. So this is the situation now has emerged. Now if this is the situation, then we will have to now go for the next level, and that next level is that we have to work out the say expected rate of return. We have to work out the expected rate of return, and expected rate of return is called as R, is equal to change in operating profit divided by the change in investment. So delta operating profit divided by the delta investment, or the change in the investment. So we have worked out the change in say operating profit here, and we have worked out in the previous calculations change in the investment, cumulative investment we have found out. So both the investments at the different policy level are with us. From current to A we have the investment for A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, we have all the investments, cumulative investment as well, and the operating profits are also available with us, that is at the current to A this much, and then A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. So all the profits are available with us. So you see that when we move from policy current to A, maximum level of increased change in the sales is going to take place, 222 lakhs, 222 lakhs, and as a result of that operating profit after tax is also highest. Then A to B, the change in the sales is now not that much, but it is still higher, 200, and the operating profit after tax is the second highest. Then B to C, so it means you see that now this trend is falling down, means immediately when we relax the policy from the current to A level, then the sales have picked up. After that now the sales are going up, but not at the same rate, it's at the declining rate, and same is the case with the operating profit, that operating profit is also increasing, but at the declining rate. So now we will have to take a decision what should we do here, and we have to calculate the R. R is called as the expected EROR, you can say expected rate of return. This is the expected rate of return, which we simply call as R. So if you talk about this, compare this expected rate of return R with the required rate of return, then in that case we will have to now make a decision that how the things are going to be there. So basis of the decision is what, that R has to be either than equal to, greater than or equal to K. R is the expected rate of return, and K is the required rate of return. K is the required rate of return. So, it means now we will have to see that expected rate of return should be greater than the required rate of return or at least equal to the required rate of return. So, on the basis of this process, let us see now calculate the change in the profit, or you can call it as the rate of return, that is the expected rate of return. So, we will see that expected rate of return, expected rate of return, and if you calculate this expected rate of return, here again we will have to change the policy inventory policy. Again we will have to go for the inventory policy. Then it is the before tax expected rate of return, and then after tax expected rate of return. Before tax expected rate of return, after tax rate of return, and then the inventory policy. So, it is current to A. So, before tax expected rate of return was how much? 48.5%, or it was 49%. So, you can say after tax will be how much? If you calculate, it works out as 24.3%. 24.3%. Now, how we have calculated this 48.5%? We have calculated this 48.5% by taking the amount of the profit and the operating profit given to us in the, see, when we have calculated the operating profit here is 41. So, if you calculate this rate, so 41 to be divided by 169. So, if you divide this 41 by 169, so the rate is, we have got the rate of return, expected rate of return is 48.5%. So, this is operating profit at the policy current to A, and this is the investment in the inventory, that is total investment 169. So, operating profit is divided by the expected investment we are going to make, or increased investment in inventory we are going to make at the policy current to A. So, it means this works out as 41 divided by 169. So, it is 48.5%. So, this is the first expected rate of return, and half of that is maybe because the tax rate is 50%. So, half of that is 24.3%, and then from A to B is how much the profit is going to be there? 35.3%. This is 35.3%. 35.3%, that is before tax, and after tax is going to be 17.6%. And then is B to C. B to C is going to be 17.9%, and it is 9%. B to C 17.9% and 9%, and then it is C to D, it is 9.1%, and in the it is 4.6%, right, and then it is D to E. The expected profit before expected rate of return before tax is 6.5%, and here in this case it is 3.2%. So, these all returns are also available with us. So, we have worked out all the three things. First, we have worked out the incremental investment in the inventory. So, cumulative investment when we move from the policy A to B to C to D to E. Then we have calculated the incremental operating profit before tax and after tax over the say this 5 policies from current to E. So, this operating profit is available with us, and in the next calculations we have calculated the say expected rate of return before tax from the policy current to E, and the expected rate of return after tax while we move from policy current to E. So, now all these calculations are with us. Now, we will have to take a decision here that how we have to decide about that where we should move which policy we should move from and we should stop at. Say if you make this analysis of this table, you can say that if you move from policy, inventory policy of current inventory policy to policy A, then what will happen? Your operating profit or you can call it as after tax expected rate of return will go up by 24.3%. It is very high. If you move from A to B, then sales will increase, but at the operating profit will go up at the declining rate. So it will be 17.6%, and when you move from B to C, it will be 9%. Profit is going, absolute profit will be very high, but percentage change in the profit is declining. So because you can sell more in the market, you can penetrate in the market, you can expand the market by selling more in the market, but in that case you have to compromise with the profits. So if you lower down the selling price, your number of say units you are selling in the market or the total volume of the sales you are making in the market will certainly go up, but your percentage of the profit or say percentage of the return will go down. But if you multiply this percentage with the total number of units or the total sales we are making, if you calculate this 9% as the given amount of the sales, that would be highest. So it is our choice whether we are satisfied with the say movement from the current to A and earning 24.3%. If you want to earn 24.3%, obviously your sales will be lesser as compared to the level that is B to C. But if you want to capture largest market or the largest size or part of the market or the largest share in that total market pie, in that case you can find out that yes, we will have to reduce our margins. We have to reduce the selling price, that way your existence in the market will expand, but the profits per unit will go down, but the total amount of the sales will be very high. As a result of this policy, what happens? As a result of this policy, by lowering down the selling price and by lowering down our own margins also, immediately we are seeing that the margin is lowering down from the 24% to 9%. But tomorrow when the many players will go out of the market because they won't be able to say have the competition with this kind of the giant in the market who is able to sell at the lowest possible price. So many people will vanish from the market, many players will vanish from the market, and when the people go out of the market, at that time you can jack up the price, increase the profitability, increase the price. At that time you will have the double advantage of increased sales also, increased market share also, and increased investment also, and increased returns also. But currently we see that is a situation to come in the say as a time to come, but currently we see the situation, what is the situation is. For example, our required rate of return, that is the required rate of return, that is ROR is say 9%. Our required rate of return is, I would say it is 9%. Now how would you decide the required rate of return? Financial experts say that your required rate of return should be minimum, it should be equal to the cost of the capital. You should be able to recover, you should earn that much rate of return from any business or any say this sales or say any kind of the transactions, that is minimum equal to the cost of the capital. Because in the business capital comes from the different sources, either it is own capital from the internal sources, the capital owned by the firm, their own resources, or it is a borrowed capital. If it is a borrowed capital and if it is borrowed at 9%, the cost of the capital we are going to pay, the cost of the capital firm is going to pay is 9%, it means the firm should earn minimum 9% from the incremental investment in the inventory, otherwise there is no point making this investment. One. But if the cost of capital is higher, if the capital has been taken or it has been borrowed, the funds have been borrowed at 12%, 15%, then the required rate of return has to be the same, right. And if it is owned capital, if it is from the internal source, if this capital is generated from the internal sources, in that case there has to be the opportunity cost of capital. You invest this capital in this business inventory or you invest this capital outside. So what is the opportunity rate of, what is the opportunity cost of capital, that will work here as the benchmark for considering it as a required rate of return. And for example, in this situation what we have worked it out here is, in this situation we find out is that 9% is our required rate of return. So we would say that we should accept the policy that is from B to C, where before tax will be expected rate of return will be 17.9% and after tax will be 9%. So, at this level, how much level of sales we will be able to make? Our sales will be going up by total cumulative sales, if you make out, that is 22 plus 200 plus 160, we will be increasing the sales. So, it will be somewhere how much? 422 and then 522, 582 lakhs of the sales we are going to increase, and increased contribution is going to be 64 lakhs, because per unit selling price is going to go down, and finally if incremental carrying cost is also going to increase by say 14 lakhs. So, finally your incremental operating profit before tax will be 50 lakhs and then incremental operating profit will come down to 25 lakhs. But we are satisfied here because our required rate of return is 9% and we are getting that at the policy C. When we are moving from C to B to C, we are getting that required rate of return. So, we are satisfied, and if you look at here the level of inventory investment, in this case the total investment in inventory will be making how much? 652 lakhs. This much of additional investment we have to make, and this is the total investment we will be making. So, it means 169 at this level to 373 at this level. So, it means when you are moving from B to C, you will be investing 652 lakhs in the total investment we will be making in the inventory as well as the other net working capital. Increased total sales will be 582 lakhs, right, and incremental profit will be 25 lakhs, which is incremental profit after tax, and finally as a expected rate of return will be 9%, which is equal to the cost of capital. But here we can take a precaution. For example, 9% is just the cost of capital, but when that capital is invested in the business, business may take other kind of risks also. So, business should not be compensated only for the cost of capital or the borrowing rate, rather they should be compensated for the risk they are taking. So, we can say here that if it is not 9%, to be on the safer side, it may be possible that cost of capital may also increase, or it may be possible that the carrying cost also increases, or sometime investment in the net working capital or other say assets may also increase. In that case, or net working capital may also increase. In that case, it may be better to be on the safer side, and if you wanted to be on the safer side, in that case it can be possible that you reach at this level A to B and you earn this rate of return, that is expected rate of return will be 17.6%, which will be much higher of this 9% required rate of return. The difference is 8.6%, and that difference of the 8.6% covers almost all kind of the risks. All kind of the risks are going to be covered here. Any kind of the risk of say inventory not being saleable, or maybe say investment in the net working capital is going to increase, or maybe any other kind of the risk, obsolescence risk is also there, lack of sales risk is also there, change of the market condition risk is also there. So, when we are into business, we take different types of the risk. So, if you want to have a premium for the risk, because at 9% is only just cost of capital, but to just get compensated for the other sort of the risks also, we should, means to be on the safer side, we should select the policy A to B. So, maximum we should stop at the policy B. If you stop at the policy B, so what will happen? At that level your sales will be increasing by 422 lakhs total, and incremental operating profit after tax will be 36 lakhs, and in the investment part if we talk about, your investment will also be not 652, but it will be lesser, that is 373 lakhs. So, investment will needs will also go down, your risk will also go down, and required rate of return will also be met from the expected rate of return, and as a result of all these permutation combinations, your expected rate of return will also be sufficiently high, which will cover for all kind of risks, making it 17.6%, which is 8.6% higher than the required rate of return. So, it means it is advisable, it is better that incremental investment in the inventory at this stage should be not straightway made from current to C, but it is better to move from current to B and then see what happens, how we are able to capture the lost sales, how we are able to serve the market, how we are able to say manage the situation in the market, how much risk we are going to take when we are going to increase the investment from the current level to the new level, and how this whole scenario is going to emerge. We should look for this, we should wait for some time. So rather than moving straightway from current to C, it is advisable that you move from the current to B policy of inventory, invest only this much amount, which is total investment, that is 373 lakhs, and get the sufficient amount of sales increased by 422, and increase your profit, that is by 36 lakhs, and in terms of the percentage it will 17.6. So at this moment it is advisable that incremental investment in the inventory should be up to the policy B. We should move from the current to B but not to C, because if we move from current to C, then your expected rate of return is just equal to the required rate of return, and that can be the risky proposition. So better it is to stick, or currently to stay at policy B from current to B, and then earn the 17.6% return, and if the situation warrants, or if it is feasible, or if it is more comfortable to expand the market and increase the sales and to increase the level of inventory and to avoid the lost sales, then we can anytime move from B to C, but in the one go moving from the current to C will not be advisable. So this is how we use the incremental analysis in working out the investment in the different current assets. In this case we have seen this use of this incremental investment in the inventory, and in the due course we will be learning the use of incremental analysis in the other current assets also, maybe the credit sales or the any other current assets. So at the moment I will stop here, and the remaining part of discussion we will do in the next class. Thank you very much.